Hey guys, it's Mikexingchen. Have you ever wondered if you were someone else in your past life, or if you had a past life in the first place? A chief question for many philosophers and scientists alike is whether or not humans have souls. A soul is a spiritual, immortal part of a human being that pre-exists the body and stays alive after death. It is the reason why people are able, if possible, to reincarnate and start a new life in a different body. I think most people do believe that they have souls because the phrase "you don't have a soul" is kind of insulting to most people. There are those who are skeptical. So here are some clues that may prove we all, well, at least us humans, non-cloned, have souls. Number 1, souls captured on photo and video. Sometimes we see photos that seem to capture images of ghosts or an always blurry Bigfoot, so it would make sense that cameras may be able to capture souls as well. And regardless of whether they are real photos or not, these are really interesting and very hard to explain. For example, about a month ago in Powell County, Kentucky, apparently there had been a horrible motorbike crash in the area, and a passerby named Sal Vasquez just so happened to take a picture of the incident as he drove by in his truck. Vasquez posted his picture on Facebook to share the devastating news, but what he received in the comments wasn't what he expected. People who saw the picture claimed that Vasquez had actually captured the dead man's soul leaving his body. Take a look. The picture seems to show a translucent human-shaped figure leaving the body of the man who passed away. Next, have a look at this video of a Chinese hospital which appeared to show the body of a deceased woman lying in a stretcher. The body was covered by a sheet and the room was dark, and you can clearly see a ghostly figure that seemed to exit the body of the deceased woman. Number 2, near-death experiences. We all know the story. Someone almost dies and is brought back to life. They then talk about a white light and probably heading towards it. But that's the thing, right? You've heard about it before because it happens a lot, and the stories all seem to be pretty similar. For example, after the horrific Tong Mountain earthquake in 1976 in China, doctors resuscitated many victims, basically bringing them back from the brinks of death, with most of these individuals recounting similar experiences of floating above their own bodies, and instead of pain and fear, they felt very much at peace. Of course, there are many people who feel that near-death experiences are all very explainable, especially a 2011 study in which researchers say near-death experiences are just biological reactions. But a Harvard neurosurgeon named Dr. Eben Alexander disagrees. Dr. Alexander did not believe that souls existed, but one day he fell into a coma for a week due to bacterial meningitis. During that time, he claimed to have had a surreal journey into the afterlife, in which he experienced something so real that it made the human world seem artificial in comparison. He said that the afterlife was filled with love, and that communication in that dimension was telepathic. People didn't need to speak to each other to understand what they were trying to say. When he regained consciousness 7 days later, his meningitis miraculously healed. He was so intrigued by this otherworldly experience that he wrote an entire book on it called Proof of Heaven. Next, we have this very interesting experiment conducted by Russian scientist Konstantin Korotkov, who photographed a person using a special bioelectrographic camera at the time of his death. Korotkov teaches physics at St. Petersburg State Technical University and is famous for his research on human energy fields. The bioelectrographic camera creates a high-intensity electric field and it produces a flow around the object. Once Korotkov photographed a person at the moment of his death, and the pictures seem to show the soul leaving the body. Korotkov explained that the life force in blue first left the core, then the head, and lastly the heart and groin region. Number 4, brain activities. Canadian neurosurgeon Dr. Wilder Penfield is responsible for a lot of what we currently understand about our brains and is widely considered the father of neurosurgery. For years, Penfield thought the brain could explain all human behavior, but after decades of research, he changed his mind. Penfield conducted an experiment where he wanted to observe the brain activity of one of his patients, so he set up a system that would monitor all the subject's brain activities. He first told the patient to raise his arm, and when the arm was raised, a certain part of his brain was activated. When the patient lowered his arm, the same part of the brain was deactivated. At the same time, Penfield asked the patient, "Did you raise your arm?" To which the patient replied, Yes, I did. Then Dr. Penfield used a machine to activate that part of the brain again, but this time, of course, artificially. When he activated that part of the patient's brain, the patient's arm rose up. And when he deactivated that part of the brain, the patient's arm fell down. But when asked if he raised his arm, the patient said no, it went up by itself. This experiment showed Penfield a couple of things. First, the brain is like a machine control panel. You still need to activate it somehow for it to give directions to the rest of the body. Also, in the second part of this experiment, Penfield was the one who triggered the brain to cause the patient's arm to go up. But who or what triggered the brain in the first part of this experiment? Because of this, Penfield came to the conclusion that the brain is a computer, but it is programmed by something outside of itself. He also said in his last book, The Mystery of the Mind, I came to take seriously, even to believe, that the consciousness of man, the mind, is not something to be reduced to brain mechanism. Next, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Well, actually, that's a lie. I am deathly afraid of ghosts. Personally, I think ghost hunting is one of the worst things that you can do. I mean, what are you doing? You don't have a proton pack? What are you gonna do when a ghost attacks? Throw your phone at it? Oh, there's a ghost. It's getting closer. Oh, now it's choking me. Take that! But seriously, we all know there are countless pictures and videos and testimonials out there that are evidence that ghosts may in fact be real. And if ghosts are real, then souls must be real, because ghosts are supposed to be lost souls. Finally, number 6, reincarnation. Throughout history, there has been countless cases of people remembering their past lives. Some cultures even treat reincarnation as fact. Professor Ian Stevenson, formerly of the University of Virginia, and his successor, Dr. Jim Tucker, spent decades researching claims of reincarnation by children and is said to have investigated over 3,000 cases. In many of these cases, the children were able to remember incredibly specific details of their previous lives. For example, a famous case of a boy known as Sam. When Sam was 4 years old, his father brought home an old photo album from his grandmother's house. To Sam's parents' knowledge, Sam had never seen a photo of his grandfather before. When they were looking through the album, Sam pointed to a photo of a car and said, "That's my car." It was his grandfather's first car. Sam's mother was skeptical, so she showed him a photo of his grandfather as a young boy with other boys of the same age. Sam pointed to his grandfather and said, "There I am." Testing it further, Sam's mother asked if he remembered anything else from his past life, to which Sam said, "Someone turned my sister into a fish." When asked who, Sam replied, "Bad men." Turns out Sam's grandfather's sister had been murdered and her corpse was dumped into a body of water. Personally, I believe that we all have souls, and that's why I'm kind of scared of this whole cloning or making machines more and more lifelike. Because, well, spoiler alert if you haven't seen season 6 of Supernatural, we all saw what happened to Sam after he lost a soul. But seriously, I personally do believe that the soul is what makes us who we are, and I really don't think that when we die it's just over. I mean, it's kind of depressing. Like I just talked about reincarnation. There are so many documented cases of reincarnation, and even if you don't believe it, you can't really explain it. I mean, how can you explain a little kid remembering such accurate details of another person who died way before they were even born? Unless all the kids in the world are somehow communicating with their little plastic toy phones and are like, "Hey, you guys want to mess with your parents? Just tell them you used to be this dead guy. Oh, and every so often point to an empty chair and tell them that your friend Bobby is sitting there right now and he wants a glass of milk." Alright guys, let me know your thoughts on this topic. Do you believe that we all have souls? And what do you think will happen when we start cloning people? Will they automatically get a soul? Or we're all gonna get killed by the clone apocalypse? Thanks for watching, everybody. See you.